right, let's try to run through this a little bit here. Um, so if you're on the school network, you should be able to go to, wait, where is it at? Sorry, this architas.sd75.org. Because I'm at home and I'm connecting through VPN, I have to use a server IP address, so 10.80.1.39. Um, but that gets you to the thing that we've built here. What you see here is this thing called Architas, and there's a little introduction to who Architas was. We won't get into any of this stuff in the class, but it's sort of a web server, it's an RStudio server, and it's a Shiny server, and you could click these different things if you're on the network to go ahead and use this thing. It talks about the different applications that have been installed and some content information if someone ever wanted to ask me questions if this was used in the future. All right, so how do you get to the R server? Well, if you're um, on the network, you click RStudio, but I can't because I'm over VPN, so I gotta do 8787, which is the port number, and that will then allow me to go here. So I'm basically signing into a web-based data science environment. You have a username now, Jim. Uh, I'll send you the username and password in the email. We'll go ahead and sign in. Once you've signed in, I mean, basically you are in a cool little environment here. I can do something like 1 plus 1 in the console. I want to hit enter. It gives me a 2. If I wanted to, let's just say, create an object, and I wanted it to be something like that. All right, we're going to store that object. I got the new object here. If I wanted to do, say, like object times 3, notice that 2 times 3, 3 times 3, 4 times 3, blah, blah, blah. I could do the same thing, but add 4, whatever. It doesn't really matter. So I can do a whole bunch of just different computer programming here. Let's go ahead and clear that because that really doesn't matter at all. Environment, we'll just leave that object. It doesn't matter if it's there. So to get this thing really started, you click on lesson.rmd, and that's loading up this file here and all of this other stuff we don't really care about. So we're going to move this sort of over here to the right. Now, the lesson itself has 3 component parts. One is the PowerPoint, where you're kind of just doing an introduction. It says, yo, how are you guys doing today? Then you have a slide here. It says, okay, everyone's got to go to polleverywhere.com with this web address. Once all the students get there, where is... You'll see questions like, what is your name? That'll be the first one to start off with. That's mainly just so we can remember who did what submissions. And then there's a series of other questions that will happen throughout the lesson. So is there anything a computer is better at than a human? If so, what? Is there anything better that a human is better at than a computer? If so, then what? And they're just sort of going to type in their answers, and we'll watch them come up on the screen. They'll do that from their own little Chromebooks. So we'll go through some of these questions during the PowerPoint and some of them during the coding lesson. So, okay, the first slide, or the second slide is like, okay, let's all get on Poll Everywhere and add our name just to sort of complete that loop. Then we'll talk about, like, are humans better at some things and robots better at some things. We're not going to spend much time, like 2 minutes. It's mainly to start a conversation with the students as opposed to like just lecturing. And then what are humans better at? What are computers better at? I might do something kind of funny here where it's like, okay, how fast are you at 1 plus 1? And we could just go to the console here, do 1 plus 1, right? But then we could also do something like, oh, I don't know, for okay, and then let's just say that what am I doing here? Oh, I'm an idiot. My problem is, right? Okay, so like maybe I'll have the students like count to 1,000 or something like that, and then in the process I'll just print out 1,000 numbers really fast, right? And be like, okay, obviously there's something really cool that computers can do here that humans can't do. What if we wanted to like add one to all of those things, right? Or like multiply all those numbers and list them all uh, after we multiply by 30 or something like that, right? And so I do that. Now I've multiplied all those numbers by 30 and I have a complete list. I could do that to like 1,000,000 or something ridiculous. Um, so we kind of get a sense of, okay, computers are faster, and maybe they're kind of like wondering at this point in time, like, what the heck is this thing that I'm in? Uh, we talk for briefly a moment about who is Ada Lovelace. This was the original computer that she was programming. There's like a little crank, if you can see it here. That's actually the thing that was making the mechanical motion to do the computation after it was programmed. So how would you program this thing? It would look like this. Just it's ridiculous how difficult it was to program on the original devices that Babbage created. Um, so, uh, but what are we going to be doing today? We're going to be doing a sentiment analysis, and we can describe all the different steps it took to get there if we feel the need to. We might just skip over on this point. Then everyone would log in, so which would bring us back over to here. We'll give the students a brief introduction to the environment. So essentially, this we can just click on this because we don't really need the console part. Each of these blocks of text are chunked together by these little run or play buttons, okay? So if anyone gets lost at any point in time, all you need to do is click the play button. So we're going to start. I'm going to click the play button, and everything is fine. It ran, loaded this knitter part, but then there was actually nothing really happening there. So like if we go here, notice that it ran both those pieces, and you can see it right there, that thing that was going on. What that did was it ran this chunk of code which loaded the text from the book, so we now have the text from the book, and it loaded some user-defined functions that we needed. Those just are things that I created that are going to help us do stuff. So if we wanted to check that we really loaded the text in the book, I could just highlight the word Sherlock Holmes and click Command Enter, and it shows you all the text right here. So that's just a way of checking, and we'll probably do that with the students, like, oh, look, all the text is in there, blah, blah, blah. All right, now we'll have to scroll down past all that then. And we talk about, well, wait a minute, that's not super useful to have everything as one object. Basically, that's just one shoebox filled with stuff. So we're going to talk through right now, how do we chop up that text into multiple pieces? So what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable called verycrazytext. We just highlight the code here. We'll do this together as with the class, and then hit Command Enter again to run verycrazytext, and notice that it printed out down here. Or I could have just done it from that line as well. But now what we want to do is actually print this line of text, this crazy text, split into multiple pieces. So I'm going to run this line, and what's happening is it's finding everywhere where there's a B, and then it's going to split that into individual lines of text. Maybe I wanted to find A as my delimiter, and so the thing I want to split up. Now we have that same very crazy text split up in a different way. Maybe I wanted to split it up based on a period. We'll ask the students, like, like what do they want to split it up on? They might say period, and then 1 second, I need to do this. Yeah, okay. So because periods are a special character, they actually need to put these slashes in front of it. So like the pipe here, the bar, you would need to do that for in the period. Let's try the bar as well. Okay, but we show the periods back in the text and split into two pieces. So what are the we discuss as a class and submit to Pull Everywhere? What are some other delimiters we would want to use within the text, and what would be things that would be meaningful? So this would drive a conversation around, like, well, we could split it by chapter. So maybe what we want to do is notice the STEV here, right? I could actually use that 4 characters as a delimiter to split this whole thing. So what we could split the book by pages, we could split it by chapters, because we have in here inside the textbook we included the word chapter, so that means we can split up all the text into different chapters. Then we could talk about sentences and things that end sentences, and things that make it look like a sentence was ended but it really wasn't, and all of that fun stuff, because the English language is insane, and why I prefer mathematics, but I won't say that in class. All right, so all right, so then we're going to chop it up for real. Notice that we're just taking Sherlock Holmes, we're making a new variable called Sherlock Holmes underscore chapters, and we're going to split all the strings, finding the word chapter. All right, boom, done. We also want to split it up by oh, I know what that's doing. Never mind, you can ignore that part. But so let's just print. Now what we're able to do is print chapter 1. So when we do that, we actually get 1, which is the word chapter is gone now, because we split it based on that, but we still have the number. And then we have Death at the Museum as the chapter title, and then we have the chapter listed out here. And then what we could also do is change this to a 3, and then take a look at chapter 3. Or we could take a look at the notorious chapter 18. All right. Actually, I just want to check something really quick. Chapter 17 and chapter 19. Yeah, okay. So we could also split by sentences. This is what we're going to do right here. Actually, I'm going to run both of these lines. All right. And now what we can do is look at just the first sentence in the book, or the 4th sentence, or the 400th sentence of the book. What we would like to do is drive a conversation around certain things, like, so what is going on with line number 10? All right. Line number 10 here. I wanted to point out there's an exclamation mark. So Fitch's specialty was all of Western antiquity. That's a sentence. We didn't capture that as its own object because we didn't include exclamation marks as part of our delimiting set. So we would just sort of have a discussion around maybe we missed some things, and that's okay. Now, number 70. Oh, that's a blank. Like, what's happening there? Like, what could possibly be causing that? What would happen is if you're delimiting around periods, and then you have an ellipse, it's basically creating blank sentences, and you would have to go through and clean that in order to do a proper analysis of the text. Okay, whatever. So maybe 132, and we see MRS. Like, why is that a sentence? Well, maybe the beginning of the sentence was Mrs. Blah 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 did blah blah blah, but it captured this as a sentence unto itself, because you, once again, the English language is using the period in many ways. All right. So then we just try to find some stuff, and what you have here is we're looking for the word cottage. So we did it first on chapters, and it returned the entire chapter anywhere the chapter contained the word cottage. That's not super useful. What might be useful, though, is we return all sentences with the word cottage. And we see now there are 3 sentences across the book that contain that word, and then we can see what those sentences are. So then the students would go and they would find some special words that they wanted to find, like maybe I wanted to say Wiggins, whatever, right? There. So Wiggins is more often spelled with a capital W. Obviously, there was some encoding issue on one of the lines because back to Wiggins and Wiggins down himself should be capitalized, but that's okay. Go back to here, but we see all the locations where Wiggins is being referenced, which is pretty cool. Like, okay, I immediately have these serious references, and you could imagine a world where I wanted to do something with that. Maybe I wanted a word cloud specifically towards Wiggins, or maybe I wanted to understand the interactions between characters, and I needed to find all these occurrences, or I wanted to count frequency, whatever, right? Okay, so then maybe we wanted to count some things. So what we could do is see here it's 302, but I could also run, oopsie, that was silly. Okay, there we go. Running this line of code, I can find how many occurrences of cottage, or I could find Wiggins. On sentences, I'm not spelling this right, but there's something in there that, okay. There you go, 302, 302, all making sense, and we can maybe find some counts of other words. All we did really here was take the original thing that we went to find everything, and when it returns that vector of things, we then wrap it with a length, and it just returns the actual length of that list, essentially. Okay, so now we've counted up some stuff. Maybe we want to visualize things. We want to be like, okay, maybe it's cooler to have this sort of word cloud action. So now I can run my word cloud, and I have produced a word cloud across the entire textbook. But what I would prefer to do is maybe remove some words that are just silly. Maybe the word now, or the word like. The way I would do that is I would add now and like, and I rerun my word cloud, and those words, well, it's still there. Now and like are still there. Okay. Clearly there's a problem with the code that I can fix that before. Oh, no. Wait a minute here. Now, like, there. Now they're gone. Like and now are gone. All right. Duh. So, I can remove stop words, so we can refer to, like, maybe the word said. That's a pretty silly word. We don't really need the word said. That's a more grammatical thing that's happening in the text. It doesn't provide us any meaning. Okay, so we got rid of said as well. And maybe what we want to do is also filter to all occurrences of a certain thing. So maybe we want to know the word cloud with reference to Elliot. All right, so Elliot's over here, right? Elliot. Now when I run this, what I don't know what. ELLIOT. Huh. Weird. Why does that word produce an error, but other ones don't? So funky, but that's okay. I'll look at that later. So, the main point here, let's just say, what's a better word? Boys. Okay, what's everything associated to boys? So we're going to filter to all lines that include the word boys, and then we can see how the word cloud changes. So this is a perfect opportunity for us to look at Alistair, right? Alistair. Am I just not spelling things right? A-L-I. Huh. I really want to use Alistair, so we'll have to fix that. But anyways, that's the... Oh, wait. Nope. Okay. Well, I'll fix that. But like, if you wanted to see the word cloud associated to all sentences that include the word limit, you see it here. It looks almost like to me like there's only one occurrence of the word limit, and that's why you have all the letter or the words with only one are of the same size. Okay, so then maybe we don't want to just count sheer volume of words. We want to look at sentiments, and we can describe the idea of sentiments. So by clicking sentiments, I have a list of words and then what sentiment has been tagged to them. So abandon as a negative sentiment with a sadness associated to it. So what we can then do is start printing our emotional counts. So how many negative words, how many positive words. So now it's almost like we're printing the metadata associated to something, the higher concept as opposed to just the count of the word itself. So you could aggregate words that are, and there's multiple words that are negative. They count as one part of the count. And then we can maybe introduce our plot graph at this point in time, where we have this laid out. And then really I think that could be the end of it. And I think that would have taken a long time. So we'll have to, watch time and sort of, there definitely are areas of this that we could just skip over, right? Like we don't have to do word counting and word listing and reviewing sentiments very closely. But if we do have time, we'll definitely do it. Another thing to help explain sentiments is I have a chunk of text here, and we talk about the word excitedly, and we would say like, well, what type of sentiment does that evoke, right? And then we have the word uncontrollably. Is that a positive or a negative word? Is this a positive or a negative word? And then is the word the a positive or negative word? And we would say basically, okay, just go ahead and count all the different things like of, to, the, of, like those have 0. And then anything that's uncontrollably, maybe the students would point out damaging as another word that is potentially negative. So you have 2 here. And we can talk through that concept as well in the PowerPoint. All right. I think that's it. Let's touch base tomorrow. Thanks, man.